So we'll have to see if the game gets better after it's beaten.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome. My name is Alex Gonzalez, and with me today is my good old friend, J.E.
Hey, that's me.
And please remember that we are not game devs. How are you doing today, Jay?
Dude, you never sent me that picture of...
I couldn't find it. It's on Twitter. Here, let me look at it on Twitter. It's
that Pokemon
it was
following you around. I've been waiting for it the entire time. I was talking about a mediocre game.
All right, I'm gonna look it for you. I'm gonna put it Dialga Chibi. Says I put Genie. Damn it. But those are not the Pokemon we are talking about today. I wish. Every week, we are not game devs. We'll bring you an exciting new video game idea that we have always wanted to play but do not have any knowledge or know how to create the wonderful experience that are video games. And today is my turn to present We Are Not Game Devs 180th IP. And we're going to begin with this basic concept. So the basic concept is what I want to make is a game where you play a character. And this is going to take significant building out, by the way. Where you play a character that has the ability to take three things and make a sandwich out of them, no matter what, and then can eat that sandwich and gain powers. But I don't know how to do it from there.
Real quick, you did send me the picture, and that does look ridiculous. Is that actually how it looks?
Yeah, so it's not chibi. It's realistic. Let me show you another better version. So it's just not to scale. And I guess that's what they're trying to say is the style.
Like they're like wind-up dolls or something. Yeah, that's hilarious. No, that looks terrible. And
and it's weird because it's like, where the fuck is the continuity?
Yeah. Anyway, sorry. You're gonna have to repeat that entire game thing again.
Okay, so, and before we go on, I'm so sorry, folks. I'm gonna send you Rayquaza and Brilliant Diamond and Pearl so you can laugh even more because of how big this dragon was and what this dragon represents, and then you're gonna see it in this game.
I think that one's actually kind of cute, though.
The fuck did they do to Rayquaza? But yeah. So it's just chibi. So we're getting into it now. I want to create a game where you play as a character who can combine three of anything.
Right. Sandwich.
So
yes.
Yeah. So you point out the middle of the sandwich, then you point out the two buns, and it brings them together.
Okay.
And then you also have the option of eating this sandwich. And I want to make an action puzzle game where you have these two abilities and you use them in bizarre ways. And then you can also pick up characteristics upon eating the sandwich, which I think can lead to some interesting puzzles as well as different moments. And I want it to be something where we can even make this game a little bit ridiculous.
Okay. Before we go on, I kind of want to take a few steps back and kind of like go behind the ability grabbing portion, because I was starting to formulate an idea that I mean, we could probably incorporate that somehow. And this is probably not the direction you're thinking this game was going to go into. But what if we turn this into a modern take on like a point and click adventure game, right? And the whole idea is you are maybe some kind of kid. Maybe we could give this like a goofy feel, and like it's like a kid doing this thing. And it's kind of like part of his imagination, partly in real life type of thing. But he goes around and he decides he's gonna make everybody and everyone and everything their perfect sandwich. And like you go around town, and it's not just humans. You're like making the perfect sandwich for like your dog. And so that's where it comes into the thing where you have to go find a dog biscuit for the patty, and then like the top and bottom are like pieces of steak. And so you have to go find these in like this open world, and then like you build the sandwich and then you give it to your dog, and that's like one check mark off the list of people that you're building sandwiches for.
Can we get ridiculous about it though? So like if there's like let's say there's a giant, or like okay, for instance, you meet a kaiju and their perfect sandwich is like 2 buildings and like a bus together.
Yeah. No, I'm down to do like crazy shit like that. Like it could
Maybe
just
we
be
get to the point where we meet like a celestial and their perfect sandwich is 2 planets and a star.
sure. We could go like, yeah, maybe like more wild and crazy and Katamari Damacy type of deal with it, where
We
like
meet the mole
just get
people
really like
underground.
ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Because it's going to be like a physics based puzzler then, where things like come together or you pull things or.
do you want it to be like that, or I because like in my head it was still point and click, and so like you would go find like a clever way to like, it's always like some kind of wordplay with these point
I'd
and
want it to be
clicks.
like a 3D point and click instead of like so if it's a point and click adventure, you get to point at different things.
And it's actually him pointing. That's like a mechanic, you like point.
It's like exactly. It's a supernatural. It's this boy has supernatural powers. So he's like, and then like his finger glows like ET, and then all of a sudden like one of the things starts glowing, then the other, and then makes a bun, and then it goes from there. I'd want it to be funny too, where like if you're around your original town, like in the tutorial, like halfway through the tutorial, they're like, he's pointing again. And then like people start running away as like you start making sandwiches for people. Like an irreverent type of game, similar to Katamari Damacy, Donut County, or any games like that that feel very random.
As we go more off, or before I should say we go more off the rails, here's what I propose. The story starts off, he's a boy in his home, and he has this dream to feed everything and everyone. And at first it starts off with him making sandwiches for his parents. And you just go around his house finding a couple of things, like making a random real sandwich. Like, your dad likes a BLT, and you're like, maybe you talk to them first and like, man, I really wish I could go for a sandwich. And your character has inner dialogue like, oh, dad loves BLT and mom likes grilled cheese. And so you go to the fridge and you get that stuff and you make it. Next, you do your dog. And that's where you open the doors and he can go out into the world. You find those things. Next, it's like the punk at the bus stop, and like he asks for something crazier, like 2 cigarettes and a beer.
They don't know that you're making sandwiches. Like the boy just goes up and says like if you're trying to get somewhere, they're like, what do you like? And they tell you, and
Exactly.
he's like, here's a sandwich.
Yeah. And so as you meet like these people further and further, their requests get crazier and crazier, and you just do it. And eventually that, like the sandwich giving somehow plays into the next person they meet. And like maybe the punk mentions like his favorite band. You go make a sandwich for the band, and the band mentions like this super like influential person. That's where you go meet like some god somewhere in the middle of, I don't know, the Central America or something, and that leads you to Celestials. You know what I mean? And it just builds up to a crazier and crazier story, and you making crazier and crazier sandwich. And that will be the story where like your sandwich giving for some reason leads this kid to a crazier situation.
So a part of this game that's going to have to make it fun is all the sandwiches that don't work out, but that you make anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And
I would say that they're permanent in the world. Like if you make a sandwich that is useless, it's just going to be there forever.
So there has to be killer sound effects for when these sandwiches are made, including with people. Now, this game sounds like it's not going to be budgeted enough for us to have full voice acting. But I think we can go back to a time in the early 2000s where everyone was talking, but they were just making random noises. You know what I'm talking about? Where their mouth moves and they go like, and then they always have that voice. And then another one, like another character, will be like, and then there's like little text underneath. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do know what you're talking about. You want to do the
what's that called? It's like the rare
full on
style.
Banjo Kazooie.
Yeah, we have to add some kind of personality here to make it funny. And we can't do full voice acting because we know this isn't a full voice acted. That'd be great. The only way is like if Hideo Kojima made this game.
No, I think it can be full voice acted, and it'd just be the team. Like we'll just make the people making the game be the voice actors. You know what I mean? And there just won't be that many characters. I think it'd just be like
almost like
characters.
A South Park style where there's a village. And those are the same recurring characters that happen all over, even as things get bigger. Just because I can imagine, like, you make a sandwich out of an old man, and you like later on you see him still part of the sandwich. He's like, it's not so bad. Yeah. As you see him like part of like some ridiculous things together.
Sure. No, I think it definitely can be fully voice acted. It'd just not be that many characters that do have a voice, and then it would be a lot of like eventually you won't even be making sandwiches for humans anymore, so it might not even have, it would get to more stuff like it's just them barking or making noises and stuff like that, you know what I mean? I do like the idea where it gets super ridiculous, but it's all in one city, so it's going to be like a Stranger Things type of situation where just in this one tiny town random big shit happens just because it's the game that we're making, you know?
Or everyone knows that this boy has these powers.
Yeah, sure. I would have thought it would just be like one day is just his imagination and it's just him playing it out in a day.
Yeah, it could just be his imagination. He's playing it out. And that makes the characters all go along with it, but maybe more in a cheery mentality, which is fine.
Or in his imagination, all these people are panicking, and that's just what you see on screen, and we just don't explain it really. But that's just how we explain it. Off in our studio, we're like, no, this is really happening, by the way. This is just all in his imagination. Now, it's a video game. It's not serious, guys.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And in our creative design, do you want to make it where if we choose something, like let's say he chooses the sun and then the moon, that they start, like they get personalities and faces, or do you want to just leave them as inanimate objects?
I think if you try to make a sandwich out of them, they just stay inanimate. But like if you're talking to one of them, they'll get a face.
All of a sudden, like the sun turns around in the sky and you see its face and mouth, and it's only on the mission that you addressed him, but you didn't know that there wasn't anything there. But if you look up at the sun early game on level 1, you see that his butt cheeks and know that the sun's actually turned around.
I also think most things in the world will be able to turn into sandwiches, but like we would have to do that in the development. Like we would have to like make a bunch of options in the game that can turn to sandwiches and just have that preloaded. And then some things we would have an explanation. Like if you take 2 quest givers, for example, it'd be like, I can't do that. He's my friend. Or, oh, Dad said I can't hurt
Or we
other
just
people.
tell them what it is. If you turn that person into a sandwich, you can't play level 8. Just leave it like that.
Just like random jokes and shit like that in there. But like not just people, but it would just be like a telephone pole and like a lamp, and we just like we never thought about it that someone would try that, and so we'd just be like, I don't know, there'd just be a joke there where we're like, oh no, you can't do that. Why would you even want to do that or something like that? I don't know, you know, but like everything you can turn into a sandwich is there because we meant it to be there, you know?
Right. Okay. So what's this game looking like to you?
If you want it to be 3D, I'm thinking it's going to look like Monkey Island 3, which I know you have no reference for.
Not at all.
But it's just literally looks like a cartoon. It's just its own art style. It doesn't necessarily have to be the Monkey Island 3 art style. I just mean that in terms of it is a hand-drawn looking cartoon. And it's just this whole realized thing, and we can have our own art style to it. Like, I think it's going to look like a cross between, I want to say like South Park and like this new cartoon I just started called Fairfax, where it's just lots of colors, explosion of styles, and just like looks very eye-popping, but it's just a cartoon, you know?
Right. Do you want there to be reactive controls when you make the sandwich together? There's got to be a nice click sound with the sandwich and a nice sound effect.
You mean when you click on
and it brings the items together?
I think there's just going to be a noise that is going to be different for every time when the sandwiches are being brought together. It's going to sound a specific way, and it's going to sound different for everything that it is. So like if you're putting two buildings together for the kaiju, for example, it's going to make the sound of you literally pushing two buildings together. So it's going to be a loud rumble. And then like in the middle, what'd you say it was going to be? Like a bus. And then like a crush glass crinkling of metal when it hits the bus in the middle type of thing. If it's the steak with the dog treat in the middle, it's going to sound like two wet pieces of meat being slapped between each other. That type
I see. Of thing. So a realistic sound effect. Okay. Good. What type of music do you think is playing in this game?
I don't know.
So
what sandwich music? What music? What's the music they play when you eat at a Mendocino Farms?
Where?
Mendocino Farms. You've never eaten at a Mendocino?
No. What was that even a chain here?
Yeah, it's a California thing. It's a California chain.
What do you mean? But where? I grew up in California.
Mendocino's the one where like it has like the blue spotted cow out in front. All the seats at the tables have like grass on them, and there's like AstroTurf like in random places.
That must be like a LA thing.
It might be an LA thing, but they're all over the place in LA at least. Like they're in places. The first Mendo I've been to, I guess, it was in like the Grove area. So maybe it is just an LA thing. I don't know. But it's a sandwich place. It's like a fancy upscale sandwich place that has like classic hot and cold sandwiches, and then you could like build your own sandwich as well, type of thing. Seasonal items and all that. Anyway, what kind of music did they play at like an Earl of Sandwich then? Maybe something that you're familiar with.
I don't pay attention. So
yeah, exactly,
I'm thinking,
right? I don't pay attention to the music when I'm eating a sandwich. So it's going
to have to be forgettable music that you're just playing in the background.
Forgettable music.
That goes along, almost like elevator music, you know, but not like jazzy.
Yeah.
I hope that helps. So I'm thinking maybe just like some, not even poppy music. Maybe imagine you grew up in the 90s and you listened to Rugrats music, and that's what you got.
Okay.
Where it's a bunch of sound effects where you like, where you can tell it's one man or woman in their studio going wild on all kinds of instruments that aren't traditionally like quote unquote instruments, not the classical ones.
I think I know what you mean.
Like it's almost like if we were to make and compose all the music by using bop it noises.
Okay, how about this? We get real wild with the music. This is the most random game to do this for. But we make a procedural music generator for this game where every action you do creates a sound. And every point everything you do is like it's associated with the sound, every step you take and stuff like that. And maybe each step, different notes, but like random. It's like a randomly like generated note. What's it called when like people do a Rubik's Cube? An algorithm. It's like an algorithm that plays notes in a way that is random, but kind of makes sense in terms of what notes sound good next to each other type of thing. It's like if you ever played a game called, I know you've never played this game, but it's called, what is this game called? There was this game that was out on the PS Vita. It was called like Polymorph or something dumb like that. But it was essentially that, where every time you interact with the world, touch grass or touch a flower or touch a tree, it visually made a visual look, but it also played a specific sound. And like, so you would just play, you'd be creating music as you're interacting with this world. And that's essentially what this is. Or there was a game called Ape Out, which was like, you played like a gorilla that escapes prison and you go on like a murdering rampage or whatever. But every single like move you did was like a percussion sound, and there's like a jazz beat happening in the background. And so like you're making jazz as
so yeah,
like,
the character is part of the soundtrack as they make noise and interact with the environments.
Yeah,
and you're trying to do that same sound effect with sandwich making.
Right, but it's also going to be like super random, where some of the stuff you do makes a sound that you wouldn't expect, just like in Rugrats, where it's just like random noises. It's like
noises.
Instead of the steps being piano keys, they're like banjo string plucks. And you're like, why did they choose the steps to be banjos? Who knows? This game's weird. It doesn't make sense.
So let's get into pricing. How much are you willing to pay for this game?
I'd say this is a solid $19.99 game.
$20 it is. All right, Jay, let's get your timer out because we're going to name this game.
Go.
Is it ready?
Yeah, I said go.
Sandwitsu.
Sure. 11 seconds. How do you even spell that?
So sandwich and then a Z-U. Sandwitsu.
I think it'd be S-U. Sandwich. It's going to be sandwit, where it's the T, and instead of a CH, it's a S-U. Sandwitsu. Yeah.
Sandwitsu is a game where you play as a boy who makes sandwiches out of everything in his imagination, and goes around making sandwiches for all his favorite people, which is everybody, until you get to the point where everyone has the sandwich they want, a world that he wants to live in.
Wait, did you say what city this kid lives in?
No.
This kid's origin story is he lives in Japan, right, where the deli sandwich doesn't exist. It's not really a sandwich people eat too often. And he watches some American show or TV. It shows this in the thing. It's like a fake TV show that this kid's watching that's Western, and it's going to have like full English voice acting. This game all of a sudden turns into a full Japanese voice acted cast, so we're gonna have to up the money on the voice acting there, or this game has to be produced in Japan. But anyway, and then he's like, in the episode, it's like Pulp Fiction or whatever, where they're like, this is a damn good sandwich. This is one of the best sandwiches I ever had. You know what I mean? And then he's like, sandwiches are the best. I gotta make the best sandwiches. And then he goes out and he starts making. Yeah, exactly.
Sugoi. Okay. So we got our origin story to our game here. What do you think, Jay? Would this be a game you'd want to play, and is it fun?
Sure, fuck it. I love weird Japanese games.
Yeah, me too. I'd give this one a try to see how it goes. I think it'd be a fun time. Now that we have a complete game, what game studio would you assign to be able to make Sandwitsu the best?
Dude, I don't even know, man. I guess the Katamari Damacy team, just because they do weird shit. But
yeah,
who else does weird shit? I don't know the studios that well, you know. Maybe Santa Monica Studios, they do weird shit. Devolver would also be good. Just as a producer, they could find the publisher or the developer. I don't know. I said producer, I meant publisher. They could find the right developer for it, like give it to like the weird producer to like, sorry, I said it again. The right publisher, right? And then they'll find the right developer for it.
What? Okay, now hear me out. What if this is one of those one-off games that gets released silently, but is big like in different areas, and it's actually a Nintendo developed game from the people who made WarioWare, and it's one of those games that unless you know about it, like that solitaire game made by Game Freak, you just totally, it goes under the radar.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see that. But I did mention Sony Interactive, but I meant Santa Monica Studios because they do like the weird shit like Ho Ho Come, and they did like, I don't know, all those weird artsy PS3 era PlayStation games like Sound Shapes and all that shit. Who made Sound Shapes? Let me search who did Sound Shapes. Yeah, Santa Monica Studio, right there. I think Santa Monica Studios, but 15 years ago.
And I don't think there's many other people out there who could take on the vision and really create something magical like we wanted to.
How about those guys that made the Nickelodeon games on Switch recently, or all platforms? Or how about TT Games? Like they take a break from Lego for a second. What if this was just a Lego game all of a sudden?
It'd probably make more sense.
It'd make way more sense if this was a Lego game.
Because the pieces would snap together, actually.
Yeah.
And with that, our 180th IP has gone gold. We hope you look forward to this experience that will probably never release. You can write to apphoundgames@gmail.com if you have anything to patch into the game we created today. Also, give us feedback. We're still learning how to make this show better, and your feedback really helps. We have a Patreon. If you'd like to back our ideas, please head over to patreon.com/wearenotgamedevs. Patrons receive episodes 2 days early and an extra podcast at the beginning, which you caught the tail end of our conversation at the beginning of this episode. That's patreon.com/wearenotgamedevs. If you liked our show, why not subscribe and give us all the stars on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Store, Spotify, YouTube, and more. And if they ask for a review, instead of reviewing our show, become your in-game critic and review Sandwitsu, the video game we just created. Thank you for joining us today. We'll be back next Friday with another new IP. Again, my name is Alex Gonzalez.
And I'm J.E.
Thank you, and please remember that we are not game devs.
But hey, Lego, listen. So you make this game, Sandwitsu. Imagine the marketing opportunities where you could sell the Sandwitsu.
And the thing is, it's actually cooler
collection
that way because if you eat the sandwich, you can gain the Lego pieces that were used in the creation of those things,
right? And
then add on to your own character.
Yeah.
So then you just keep eating bigger and bigger sandwiches.
And Lego, that adds to my point. You just make this collection called the Sandwitsu game collection of Lego, and it's gonna be like booster packs, right? Where you open these random booster packs and you get random pieces of sandwich, and you got to collect them all. So you keep opening these packs, and then you're gonna get duplicates, sure. But then in the instructions, you say, hey, you get duplicates. Here's if you get 5 of this duplicate, you can make this, and then That's have true. More.
You know what? I'm scrapping my idea. This is my new idea. Hi there. Thanks for tuning in to make this happen. Where we just imagine if I just rolled into the next show. I'm like, this is what we're doing. We're making this happen. We're taking an idea I just thought of, and we're bringing it live.
And it's like, hi there. Thanks for tuning in to make this happen. So this week, I made it in our last podcast. We're on Game Desk, so check out IP80 Sandwitsu.
So now we're doing Sandwitsu, a carryover into a Lego genre of games that is going to be a cult classic. Imagine what Fooly Cooley did for anime is what's going to happen for Legos over here. Sandwitsu. Can you have a deep Japanese voice that you can do for anime, but say Sandwitsu?
Sandwitsu.
Ore! Sandwitsu nani? Okay, cut all that out. I don't know if that's appropriate.